sign and stuff. I'm not against it. In my name.
Let's call the meeting to order.
That'd be all right, wouldn't it?
Kmart.
Sure.
We're all present this evening. The invocation this evening, help me. Carol Coulter, Family Faith Fellowship. And George, would you lead us in the flag salute, please, sure, afterwards?
Stand, please. Heavenly Father, as we come here this evening, we come to do business of the city. We come to make choice decisions that will affect the days ahead and the future of this great city. We just ask, Lord, that you will give us the wisdom, you will give us the understanding that they need in order to make these decisions. And I pray as the churches of Enid this week has prayed for this choice meeting tonight, that your presence will be here, will guide our hearts, our minds, and our souls, Father. In your name we pray, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in our nation's pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Item 4, consider approval of minutes of the regular commission meetings of September the 6th, 2018, and September the 18th, 2018.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Ron, second by Jonathan. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 5, awards, presentations, proclamations, and organizational business. Item 5.1, present the pet available for adoption at the city animal shelter. All dressed up.
Hi, good evening. I'm Charlotte Ringwald. I'm the adoption coordinator at Enid Animal Control. And tonight I have Heath. Heath's my little buddy here. He's as sweet as the candy bar. And he's in pen 9. He's about a 1-year-old min pin mix. Or maybe he could be a long-legged chihuahua. You never know. So we've got lots of different animals available. We've got a couple of small dogs. People are always asking about small breeds. We have a few small breeds. We always have cats. And we've got a lot of different pets looking for a new home, so stop by the shelter if you're looking to expand your family. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 5.2, consider appointment to the Public Access Television Advisory Board. Is that you, Gerald?
Yeah, Mayor and Commissioners, we've got 2 current vacancies on the ETN, or the Public Access Television Advisory Board. Tony Whedon has applied. I'm not sure I see Tony in the audience, but he'd be an outstanding addition to the board, and I highly recommend you consider that appointment.
Move to appoint Tony.
Motion by Ben, second by Jonathan. Discussion. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 5.3, the Advanced Development Authority Quarterly Update by Mike Cooper. Mike?
Evening, Mayor, Council, City Attorney, and others. Good to be here. Good to give a brief report. So a lot going on. First of all, worked through the National Defense Authorization Act to add language which could eventually help with your water project. It was called the Defense Community Infrastructure Program, or DCIP, and what that essentially does is set up a program where defense communities can access through a grant process dollars to help them with projects inside their communities that assist the military, increase mission capability, reduce cost type of thing. And again, water is very important to our military bases. In fact, so important that they've scored all the bases on water resiliency. So So anyway, it would be a very good program once it's funded. So worked it through the House and Senate process. We're able to get that plan, that program authorized. We then worked it through the appropriation process. So the program's approved, but it needs dollars. So because it was late in the process, the Senate, Senator Inhofe ensured that it was put in the appropriation side on the Senate, but when it went to conference, it didn't make it through that process. So what will happen there, the program is in place for 20 years. Next year, and the reason that the House did not appropriate dollars to it is because they wanted rules to be created by the Department of Defense on how you would allocate those dollars. What were you going to allocate them for? How would the process work? Who would manage it? And all of that. I think it's pretty certain that the Office of Economic Adjustment, who has managed the joint land use study for you, the dollars that we got from that, it would be the one that would administer this. So I know Inhofe and Cole and others, Lucas as well, have asked Department of Defense to create those rules. So what you'll see is next session they'll come back, rules will be created, then they can appropriate dollars. So that'll be long-term, I think, something that we'll be able to access some dollars on to help you with your water project. Also, the other thing that we did, we talked about the Senate Bill 1576 that was passed last session. This is the bill that protects against wind turbine incursions or into military training routes, approaches to runway, drop zone, bombing range protection. So we had an issue with a developer that had filed a wind farm development in March prior to the bill being passed. Once the bill was passed and signed by the governor, then all the requirements of that bill had to be met, which essentially were 100% communication with the developer and the Department of Defense and the services to get those agreements. And you could not build until you had the necessary agreements, whether it was a condition of no hazard from FAA or agreed upon mitigation between the services and the developer, which would mean the Air Force on this particular project. So what we had happen out there, a wind development company was building without approval. So once we found out about that in July, late July, then we went through the process first getting them to stop. But once they did not stop, then the Attorney General and others got involved, and we had negotiations Friday. I met with the Attorney General, wind developer, had the Department of Defense clearinghouse folks and Air Force all negotiate an agreement, because the whole idea was to get the development stopped where you don't have the necessary approvals so the mitigation plan can be developed. You couldn't make a mitigation plan because every time you added a tower or a wind turbine, it changed what the mitigation plan was going to be. So this afternoon, we did get an agreement finally between the developer and the Military Planning Commission that I chair, that they won't be developing anything west of Hinton that doesn't have the necessary approvals. They have till October 15th, which means that the Department of Defense Clearinghouse and the military will work to get this mitigation plan approved before the 15th. Of course, if it didn't happen, then there would be other relief efforts there that would be done to make sure that nothing was built until those agreements were had. So that bill essentially, it shows that it works, and so we'll move forward and look forward to seeing how that does. I think long term, though, for us, I think most everybody will see that don't start your development until you get the necessary approvals. That's really all that.
Who uses that area?
That particular airspace, I would say that, because I've talked with Colonel Simmons about this, wouldn't mean that they would never use it. They don't predominantly use it now. Shepherd Air Force Base does that, which does NATO training, similar to pilot training like they do. So I think T6s would probably use that, right?
Yes, sir.
Most of the time.
And, Mr. Mayor, we're working 3 other projects through the commission to mitigate appropriately so that we don't lose anything for Vance.
Yeah. One thing we did tell, because this came up, quite a bit, that I told the Attorney General, I said, well, I don't really know how the Air Force would utilize that, say, from Vance, but with the pilot shortage, and they're going to be training a lot more pilots, I would say that if that's available, they could use it in the future. So
We can get down there.
Absolutely.
At the state level, of course, we would have already approved it, but there will be another shot of dollars from the Military Planning Commission for your terminal. So I think you'll see around another 230 to 250,000 to that. So that'll be the second phase of assistance from that. So that's a good project, and I know you've heard and seen all of the effort on that. So that's a real good thing. Today, we had Advanced Development Authority. I briefed with them an enhanced use lease project, and I visited with the Colonel this afternoon about that as well. They're in need. MilCon dollars are kind of short and available and all that, and they do have priorities in that area as well, but they have immediate need of 100 dorm rooms. That dorm, if you've been out there, has been remodeled a lot of times, and so I spent a lot of money on that project, but they have a need for that. So through this enhanced use lease project, then we'll look to figure out, number one, you have 100 students, they pay X amount of dollars per month times 12 months in a year, so there's revenue stream there. So if we can make the necessary agreements and get somebody to build that on base, then I think you'll see us do that. We'll work with the folks at the Pentagon to get the necessary agreements. I think we kind of talked that if we had at least a 25-year agreement, it probably makes sense to do something like that. So we'll certainly coordinate to try to figure out how to do that. I know in talking to Mr. Keim and others, we also have the Great American Defense Community Award through the Association of Defense Communities that we've applied for before. So there'll be a lot of discussion around that because we certainly do a lot of quality of life projects with the military. So we'll be coordinating that as well. So really, with that, that's about all I got, unless anybody has any questions. Okay.
Thank you, Mike. Item 6, hearings. Item 6.1, hold a public hearing to consider a request to close a portion of a stormwater detention easement, Lot 4, Block 13, plat of blocks 12 and 13, Willow West, 4th edition. Robert?
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager. This is a public hearing to consider closing a portion of a stormwater detention facility and on-site for subdivision. What I have up here and want to show for the audience is the location of the subdivision that developed this detention. That is lots 12 and 13 of Willow West 4th edition, outlined in the blue. And I'll point out Willow Road on the south of the map, and to the right is Cleveland Street to locate the site. That subdivision, when it developed, did provide for a on-site detention. This next slide is a little closer view of that site. You can see lots 3, 4, 5, and 6, and the green area is outlined in the map is the area that is a stormwater detention easement that allows for water to store there and then released at a rate that it can handle downstream. Also, the area outlined in red is the area proposed for closing that part of the easement. Yeah, you may see that in the aerial photograph, there's probably a partial encroachment already. So the next slide is just a survey of that lot 6, as shown on here, and in the center part of that lot, you see the actual dimensions of the dimensions that were outlined in red on the previous slide of where the closure is requested. The owner was required to and did provide an engineering study of the detention facility to verify that even with this encroachment or closure, it still has adequate capacity to provide for full detention as planned. It was presented to the MAPC Planning Commission, and they did support the closing of that portion of the stormwater detention easement. It would only close that portion, small portion that's shown on this map. With that, it's a public hearing. I would yield if anyone wants to speak.
We do have 2 people signed up to speak.
Thank you.
This item. First one, Clint Claypole. Need your name and address, please.
Clint Claypole, 1001 Indian Drive, and I'll actually speak also on behalf of Mr. Klassen. So I am representing Mr. Klassen and helped prepare the request to vacate part of this easement. And mainly, I'm here to take questions if there are any. I would also just point out in addition that we retained the same engineering firm that the city used in 2008 when they designed this retention facility. They did the same study with regard to the impact of this small vacated strip, which is about 14 feet on one side, about 12 feet on the other. They did the same engineering study, and the only impact is a retention rate, which is 0.21 difference or 0.3% difference, and this retention is already, I think, 3 whole points below what the high range for the outflow would be. And so all of that to say that the impact of this closure is minimal, and the engineering study also pointed out that this strip that's being requested to be vacated itself is even outside of even the 100-year floodplain. So I think the impact will be nil, if anything. And so I'm willing to take questions if anybody has any.
Is there a berm there now?
Well, this is a fairly, correct me if I'm wrong, Bradley, but there's a pretty good slope to the back of this lot. And so from the point, and I'm pointing at the one I can see, but from the point of the back of the lot to where the back of the house is, or to the back of where this vacated strip will be, you're talking about probably, so from, if I can figure out how to work this. Oh, not that way. Oh, right here, the one, yeah. Now that I'm smart enough to use this. So from here to here, you're talking about a change of elevation that's probably going to be the top of your head at least, to where the bottom of the house is from where the back of this retention pond is. And then there's a drainage easement that runs all the way down this side as well, and I believe even turns into a concrete drainage. Isn't that correct? Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7, administration. Item 7.1, consider an ordinance closing to the public a portion of a stormwater detention easement, Lot 4, Block 13, plat of Blocks 12 and 13, Willow West 4th Edition, providing for repealer, savings clause, and severability.
Hey, Mayor, Commissioner, City Manager, this is just the ordinance that would close this section, generally as outlined in red of the detention facility, and allow for the continued development of the property by the property owner.
Robert, is there any concern for the 3 houses on the south of that facility in green?
No, they, to answer the question, the area is basically a depression here. There is a little berm along the east side where the control structure is at to discharge, but this facility holds back the water off this lot, the subdivision, and reduce it to the rate of the easement, which I believe is right through here. The stormwater travels off to the south. So no, there's no that was built to address and mitigate the impact to properties downstream, including those properties. And this change does not appreciably affect that. They are still protected to the historical level.
Those set aside from the 2 lots there?
Excuse me, are they set aside from the 2 lots?
Green?
The green is the easement area. It covers actually into 4 lots, Lot 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the ordinance to close the portion, designated portion there of the stormwater detention easement.
A motion by Ron.
Second?
Second by George. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Item 7.2, consider a resolution amending the 2018-2019 Water Capital Improvement Fund budget by appropriating additional funds in the amount of $12,098,170 to increase the 2018-2019 appropriated amounts for the Water Capital Improvement Department.
Yes,
Motion
Mayor.
to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ron, second by Ben. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Thanks, Aaron. Motion carries 7-0. Item 7.3, approve amendment number 2 to the professional engineering services agreement with Garver LLC for the alternate water supply from Call Lake in an amount not to exceed $12,098,170 and authorize the mayor to execute all contract documents. Chris.
Thank you, sir. Can we get the slides back up? As you know, we're getting ready to roll into the next phase of this CAW program. This first step of this phase will approve the amendment for Garver Engineering to provide the necessary engineering and program management and controls for the rest of the program for phase 3 and set the stage for the next phase. I think I'd like for Michael to provide the
Chris, is this the same presentation we just watched?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve amendment number 2.
Second.
Motion by Ron, second by Ben. Further discussion? Please cast your vote.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Motion carries 7-0. Item 7.3, approve amendment number 2 to professional engineering services agreement with Garver LLC for the alternate water supply.
Just did that.
Did we just do that one?
I think that's the one we just approved.
Yep.
My mistake. Item 7.4, approve those $12 million figures getting my way.
Yeah.
Item 7.4, approve the third amendment to the management agreement between the City of Enid and Global Spectrum LP.
Motion to approve.
Motion by George,
Second.
second by Ben. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 8, consent items.
Move to approve.
Motion by Ben to approve.
Second.
Second by Jonathan. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 9, we will now recess to convene as the Enid Municipal Authority. Item 10, all of the trustees of the Enid Municipal Authority regular meeting are in attendance. Item 11, the Enid Municipal Authority regular meeting is now in session. Item 11.1, consider a resolution increasing the 2018-2019 fiscal financial plan for the Enid Municipal Authority in the amount of $12,098,170.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ron, second by Derwin. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Yeah, 11.2. 11.2, item 11.2, approval of claims in the amount of $318,440.07.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Jonathan.
Second.
Second by George. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 12, we will now adjourn to convene as the Enid Economic Development Authority. Item 13, all of the trustees of the Enid Economic Development Authority are in attendance. Item 14, the Enid Economic Development Authority regular meeting is now in session. Item 14.1, approval of claims in the amount of $12,500.
Motion to approve.
Motion by George.
Second.
Second by Derwin. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 15, we will now adjourn to convene as the Enid Public Transportation Authority. Item 16, all of the trustees of the Enid Public Transportation Authority are in attendance at the regular meeting. Item 17, the Enid Public Transportation Authority regular meeting is now in session. Item 17.1, approval of claims in the amount of $4,077.21.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Tammy.
Second.
second by a whole host. Jonathan, please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 18, we will now adjourn to reconvene as the Enid City Commission. Item 19, public comments. We have one person signed up. Diane?
Diane Levesque, 1324 West Oak Avenue, and I do need to correct the record, what record there may be about the matter of the casino. I'm very well aware that the newspaper poll showed that Enid residents want a casino. Newspaper polls also showed that, Mr. Mayor, your name should be Van Hooser. Newspaper polls also showed that we should be operating under a master parks plan. We aren't we? I wonder why. So yes, I need to set the record straight on what the newspaper lied about with regards to my flippant remarks about Mr. Van Hooser and the fact that I was gambling, and the only upside of that is that when you gamble, you lose. I said back when he was a commissioner, and I said the last city commission, that my problem with the casino was the location, not the fact that it was a casino, not the fact that anybody in particular owned the property. My problem with the casino is its proximity to Boggy Creek, and the fact that it's in the floodplain, and the fact that if it goes, if any property is seized outside of the address considered by the last city commission, then there may be impediment to proper stormwater drainage or stormwater service that the city provides to the remainder of the city. And I will add that Van Hooser was indeed somebody endorsed by the newspaper, and so was Hillary Clinton. So I can understand why Ms. Miller would seize on my flippant remark as an excuse to see her beloved, to throw in the newspaper something that was neither here nor there as to the point I was trying to make. The point I was trying to make that it's in the floodplain, the point I was trying to make when Mr. Van Hooser was commissioner was, and I'm sure some of you remember the comment I made about a casino on stilts. No? Yeah, I made that remark, and I'm pretty sure ETN has a copy of it. Anyway, I'm going to add to that any unfriendly or hostile takeover or seizure of property by one sovereign over another sovereign is an act of war, not only here but in international courts and pretty much recognized anywhere. So if they want that particular property and they seize it without the city's agreement to it, they have declared war on the city of Enid, and it seems to me if they really want a casino, they can seize some other property somewhere else that doesn't impede any services provided to the city by the city commission. I will also say that I'm pretty sure y'all are going to be pleased I'm not going to be attending the next city commission, because there is, and I want to make sure it's all clear, that there is an Okies for Monarchs meeting over at the library, pretty much scheduled the same time as the next city commission. I find it more productive to go visit there, and I'm very pleased to hear that Leonardo's will be represented there too. As it happens, Dillingham Garden has everything it needs to be a registered Monarch Way station, and so does Leonardo's. And one of the things I'm going to do over there is lobby for that very vigorously. It should have happened a long time ago. I also caught word too that something about the Master Gardeners situation where Dillingham Garden is quote unquote neglected. I'm not going to say who I quoted that, but the butterflies love it. You ought to neglect it more often.
Thank you. Item 20, we are adjourned.
All right.
Thank you for joining us for the Enid City Commission meeting. All meetings are broadcast on local cable channel 12 and in high definition on channel 112. In addition, the council meeting is live streamed on the web at enidtv.org. If you have any questions or comments regarding this broadcast, please visit the City of Enid website at enid.org.